Carlos Nelson with Cascade Media, and today we have one of our young council people, Mr. Eric Bunch, on, and we're going to talk a little bit of politics. How you doing today, Eric?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing, Carlos?
Oh, we're doing fine.
Yeah.
Tell our audience a little bit about what's going on with you. What's your relationship is with the city manager now? As you know, we're off to a good start according to the last councilwoman that Teresa Law. She was pleased with the snow removal and different things. Give us your take on what's going on that end.
Yeah, what I was excited about with hiring a new city manager was pulling in someone who's really going to look at the organization of the city. We're a huge employer, and it depends on having good community good company culture, and creating a place where people want to do their best, where people feel rewarded for doing their best. And so far I've been very impressed with Mr. Brian Platt, who's I think got the right level of outside the box thinking, to be creative and building a great culture here at City Hall. And he's already made some, I think, really important moves that are going to have.
Can you talk about those moves?
Yeah. Well, I mean, one big one was making some changes in the public works department. You mentioned snow removal. That's an operational thing that people experience. That's something that we get called out on all the time about is about how we do snow removal. And it's the strategic side of building good organizations. So in this case, kind of rethinking how public works works. So a big change was hired Michael Shaw, who used to be over in the neighborhood services department over solid waste. He's now moved up to be the public works director, which is a big change because in the past they've reserved that position as just for engineers. You have to be an engineer to be the head of public works, which I've always argued that being a good engineer isn't necessarily the most important skill to have to lead one of the most important departments in our entire city. And so, Michael Shaw's got a great operational background, and I think has already made some changes in the department over there. And that's the kind of outside the box thinking, saying like, hey, let's find a talented person who's going to be good with people and creating good operational systems, rather than just focus on it being an engineer, because the job isn't really like stamping plans.
Well, that's just like education. They're saying, you go to college, you learn all this stuff, but when it comes to the workplace, people are interested in people that can get the job done. Mm-hmm. They might have been self-taught, or those degrees don't mean anything anymore. And especially since the C-19 popped up, it's made everybody have to use this digital platform that's out here, especially overwhelming Zoom and platforms like that. Whether you knew how to access them, you know now because your job depends on it. And
yeah, so absolutely.
One thing in interview or two before this one, when we talked to y'all about, especially my white council members, about the city manager, most of y'all again said y'all didn't think he could win because he didn't have the experience. But each one of y'all liked that he looked at problems in a different manner. And it seems like you're reiterating that, and you put that into practice over the last 2 months.
Already some important changes that are actually having tangible effects on everybody's day to day. Like every resident will see an improvement in something. It seems maybe simple, which is just getting the snow off the streets, but that was a quick action that was really strategic and not just simply
So what else is, let's get quick order. Let's knock a couple of things out. What else is on your agenda, and what else do you deem important for the next 3 months? And I want you to talk about that, what's the name, tax that's coming up in April that the city needs.
The earnings tax. Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I'll hop right into that one. That's a really important thing. Earnings tax. You know, a lot of big cities have some form of income tax like that. The earnings tax is a 1% tax on earnings that whether you live here or work here or live and work in KCMO, you pay that earnings tax. It's about 40% of our general fund. And to clarify what the general fund means, because I think that there's always a little bit of confusion about what our budget looks like. So the general fund is part of our overall city budget. It's, I think, it's 600 million, I think, on average. And of course, it's down a little bit this year because we've had some significant job loss as everywhere with COVID-19. But the general fund is part of our $1.7 billion budget. It's about 600 million, I think, on average. Of that, 40% comes from the earnings tax. And that general fund is the only pot of money that's not restricted to certain types of activities. So like, you know, we have a capital improvement sales tax. That can't be, that money that comes in for the capital improvement sales tax can't be used to like pay for the convention center. It can't be used to, you know, like actually like implement a COVID-19 vaccine strategy. It can't go to the police department. So just like public safety, like that goes to the fire department. That's a tax that comes through sales. That's a sales tax. It goes to the fire department and the police department.
All right, so let's keep it moving. I'm the cutoff king. Sure. Eric, I'm the cutoff king. Let's keep it moving. I want to get on the county's case.
But earnings tax, I want to talk about the vote is coming back up. The state of Missouri, in their infinite wisdom, put a sunset on the earnings tax. So every 5 years, we as a city have to vote on it again. And this is coming up in April. We have to vote in favor of retaining the earnings tax. You will see a significant amount of the city budget slashed to where services will take a major hit if we don't renew that earnings tax. So it's absolutely critical to vote yes for that in April.
So Black community, Councilman saying we need to vote yes. Mr. Nelson personally will be voting yes. Not that sways your vote, but it's important. We can't afford to lose that. If you didn't understand what he was saying on that sunset, it's not a renewable thing. We've got to vote on it or we're going to lose that money and we won't ever get it back. So that's clear. Let's keep it moving. Let's get on the county's case. They got some money, supposed to be doing some deals with y'all. What's going on with that?
That's a good question. You know, we were stuck in a situation where we couldn't access CARES dollars. I assume it's that money that's coming from the federal government to help us recover from COVID. That's probably the biggest.
Could you go in depth a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So the very first COVID recovery package that came out of the federal government included money to local governments to help basically cover costs that we've incurred by doing things like mass testing sites and you know, putting folks who are unsheltered into hotel rooms to help prevent the spread of COVID.
Just today, I think y'all are doing some other things. Y'all have ramped that covert up to 10.
Yeah, there's still
and the homeless issue. Y'all have attacked that.
Yeah, and I can touch on that in a second. But unfortunately, we're not a big enough city. We're not 500,000 people by the last census, so we didn't qualify to get that money directly. Instead, it went through the county. The county has held on to a lot of that. As far as I know, there's still a significant amount of money at the county that's not been spent. We didn't get what our share should be based on our population. That's frustrating. I'm not.
Well,
totally
we've been trying to get Troy Schulte. You know, I'm the cutoff king.
Sure.
We've been trying to get Schulte. And last week, my media department, I asked them to send every one of those county legislators an invitation to come on the show. And if they don't come on the show, hopefully you will help in this. I am going to be on them every day because this is one clear question I want to ask you. Do you think that public officials, given that the platforms are here and given, you know how we do with you, you tell us when you can be free, and we're willing to basically accommodate. Do you think that a public official has an obligation to speak to its constituents on why they're making moves the way they're making?
Well, I mean, ultimately, I mean, I answer to in my case, 80,000 bosses. That's the general public. That's the 80,000 people who live in my council district. And so, absolutely, I'm accountable, or at least I should be accountable to those folks. And I like to use whatever means necessary to get those conversations going out and disseminated to the public. But it's a two-way street. I try to take as much opportunity. It's harder with COVID. It's not as easy as back in the day when you could just show up to a community meeting or have a town hall or something. But you know, it's a two-way street, and so taking feedback. But yeah, I should be responsible for explaining why I make a decision.
Because it seems like some of these, well, a lot of them, because we're talking about politicians and how you used to do business in 219 and a little bit in 220, that's never going to be the same. And if you think that when a media company calls you, you just don't answer, you're mistaken. Because I'm going to be on here on programs like this talking about it, and I'll be naming you, and then you'll be mad at me. But I'm not the problem. I'm not being paid, and I wasn't voted in to represent the community. And if you're representing the community, you should be able to come on this show, especially if you have any representation with the Black community. We want to know what's on your mind, whether you're white or you're Black, whether you're the county, the state, or the city. And this is a shot across the bow. I'm not boasting. I'm not bragging. If you do not come on our show to say what you're doing to our community, we're going to target you. End the story on that. Let's keep it moving.
That's why I'm here. That's why, I mean, I absolutely think that you know, and I can't speak to everyone else's intentions or their reticence to talk to the media. I think I'm a pretty open person, and this is the second time I've been on your show, so I think it's important, and I appreciate the work that you do.
You know what? I'm like, my white council people, certain ones, I've had a really good relationship with y'all. I'm saying, you know, it's like God gave me some type of X-ray. I get vibes, and even through this electronics, and people that want to do the right thing, they don't have nothing to hide. All of us are human. We make mistakes, but when you're representing us and you don't want to come on to say why, what, and how, and it could be 15 minutes, but you cannot continue to let the mainstream media put things out, and it's a one-way street that they might put something out that is not all the way proper. It might be edited. We don't edit our guests. And so therefore you're getting it straight from the councilman's mouth. You're not listening to the grapevine. Oh, well, you know, on the inside, they telling me Eric is saying this. On the outside, they saying this. No, look and hear what he's saying and believe what he's saying until you find out something different. Let's keep it moving. What else you want to talk about, Eric, real quick?
Yeah, I mean, you brought up earlier the situation we have right now. I shouldn't maybe call it a situation, but we've opened up the Bartle Hall to be a temporary shelter. Basically in the colder months right now. We should be thinking about this in the warmer months as well, because actually more homeless folks, unsheltered folks, actually die from exposure in the summer than they do in the winter. And so I think it's short-sighted of us to think of this as only a winter problem. I told you
when I was homeless, didn't I? When I was homeless, where the people spend their time, I spent my time in the library on the plaza from 9 to closing. And then on Saturday and Sunday when they closed early, I went to Barnes and Noble, because the on the plaza. That heat and what have you. I'm so happy that y'all are making some moves about it.
Well, yeah. I mean, things like the library are essential for our folks experiencing homelessness, and unfortunately, like because of COVID, some of those opportunities and lifelines are
that's how this
restricted.
company was born.
Yeah.
That's how this company was born.
Right. I love that story.
I was in the library. Crosby Kemper was over it, and I was trying to seeing you have all this access to information, and I noticed my community really didn't have it, and I started on sports and what have you. So it's important. And look where I'm at. I'm not going to tell the community what, but I told you I signed that big deal. That you never know what can happen if you provide some means for our trodden community, white and Black and Hispanic.
Yeah, and so and this is just one step. Offering up Art Hall as a warming center is the first step. I mean, it's not nearly enough, and so we're actually the mayor's created a task force on homelessness, and it's going to look at high-level policy because we're missing a lot in this city. There are a lot of challenges. My office and we've been doing a lot of research on best practices across the country because it's not just about that warming shelter. It's about how do we get these folks transitioned into long-term housing? How can we get more stories like yours? And that's going to take some this effort on the city's part to do a better job of creating a direct pathway from being on the streets all the way up to permanent housing and all the transitions and the incremental steps in between.
People always ask
we're going to look at that.
They say, Nelson, why do you always be trying to be telling people you was homeless and this and that? I was like, because I was. What the hell's wrong with you? And it's not like I had to be, because my people have a little cake. But you do what you do, how you do it. And I've been my own man since I was born. But you can make it. That's the main thing.
Yeah. So
what specifically for your district? Talk to your district specifically right now.
A few things. Obviously, the 4th district is probably on the homeless conversation. My district is probably experiencing a lot, the bulk of sort of some of the downsides to the explosion in unsheltered folks. And so that's one thing that we're working on that's has a direct impact on my constituents. We're also talking a lot about housing right now. I mean, there's been a big discussion, obviously, about affordable housing, and we just did an ordinance that would require some set-asides and new development projects. But that's just one little step. We've got to be doing a lot more to ensure that we can build more affordable housing and honestly, for me, I think the best direct path to getting more people into good quality housing is direct money. Like I think we need to be working towards building up our housing trust fund and actually doing a voucher program so that our that the lowest income of bracket of our community deserves to live in a neighborhood that's served by public transportation like mine. And so getting a voucher program up and going and getting money direct into the pockets of the folks so that they can buy or rent into that great neighborhood with great public transit and other amenities is going to be key.
That was essential, Councilman. Mm-hmm. When I was homeless, there was times I didn't have $1.50 to catch the bus.
Yep.
And I'm saying that free transit is good for the bottom 3/4 of the people that I feel I represent. And I know it can be trying to some passengers, but all I can tell you is think if you didn't have nothing.
Absolutely.
You got to put yourself in these people's shoes and even how they act and what have you. You don't know what they've been through.
Yeah.
And have some compassion.
And that's why I was the main champion for zero fare transit. It's that because I think that money is better spent elsewhere. And the transit agency even says that. Let's give them that $1.50 to spend on something else over here.
Boy.
And so make first step, make transit free. We've already done that. The second step is make sure that housing is abundant and affordable for those folks who are going to benefit the most from that free transit. And that's sort of the next phase of this whole idea of making transit accessible and making communities more accessible for me. And so I think that really impacts the 4th district. Going forward, we've got to do some more stuff for affordable housing.
All right. Now, before we get off, I got to take a couple of parting shots at people, but I want to talk about the mayor also. And as I said to you, the council, everything is about economics. And as I said, we don't do no business with y'all. Y'all need to straighten that out. But now I'm on the school board. I'm on Dr. Bedell. He declined the interview with us because whatever reason, that school district is not doing what it's supposed to be doing. People are working in fear, according to reports I got, and they're reliable, I believe. And when, just like I said with the mayor, and you're talking all this, I'm community this and that, but you didn't give the Black station a exclusive with the school district. We've been filming their sports since 2008. They've done virtually nothing with us. You see our logo here? All right. We should be supplying the Kansas City School District's uniforms with Cascade's logo on it, where we've got 2 major Black suppliers here, T-Shirt King and Cherry, Thaler Cherry's operation. They work with us. All those uniforms that the Kansas City School District, all their sports, with our logo, spending money in our community, and then there's a trickle-down effect. We're doing with all these big corporations, the Nikes, the Adidas. And the other thing I wanted to say about what we're talking about, I think Kansas City is the perfect model city that if we get our stuff right here, things can be duplicated across the nation, especially in the Black community. And there's no reason why we should just keep financing and spending money with the large corporations, but we're talking about economic development in our communities. And the companies that are able to fit that bill are not getting the business they should be. Last but least, I'm holding off right now. I was getting ready to have the red light sale. You remember Kmart had the blue light special? My red light sale was supposed to come off this Monday, but some people told me to hold off because I was going to start naming businesses and individuals that are selling the Black community out. And as I said, people, don't forget, Mr. Nelson is a gangster, posing as a businessman. And if you come at me, you better come right. But I plan to use my network to get our community right. So if you know that you're not right, you better try to get right, because I'm gonna be putting you on Front Street, and that's gonna affect your family, your business, and I'm lawyered up. So with that being said, do you have any parting words?
I don't know if I can top that. I appreciate being on here, and I want to keep moving the city forward. And and to your point about local businesses, I think that's really critical. That especially at this time right now, we got to be supporting our local businesses and doing everything we can to keep money right here in the community. And that's everything from restaurants to media
across the board.
So yeah, absolutely.
And absolutely. More so, not these people that don't live here. Mm-hmm. These big corporations.
Yeah.
One other short shot across the bow. We just hired some investigative people because we're going to be investigating these corporations that, and I'm naming them, the Bendexes, the Burns and McDonald's, the Black and Beaches, the Cerners. We're going to be looking at your books, and we're going to be looking at what you are giving back to this community in Kansas City. I don't know what you're doing around the world, but you're operating right here, and the Black community don't seem like it's benefiting. So, as I said, I signed that big contract. We're hiring people. It's a new sheriff in town. They can think I'm playing if they want, but all of this, us being on the low end, that's got to stop. We got to get a fair share of this economic pie. And it's a big pie in Kansas City. You know it, and I know it. And these lawyers and these games that they've been playing, keep playing them. See if I don't find out about them and put them right on the front page. And then the Star can get hold of it. All right. It's a pleasure having you on, Bunch.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate
look forward to getting you maybe another 2 or 3 weeks so that you can, you know, give an update on what's going on in your district and how things are going. And if you want to sound some alarms, hey, think we need to look at this.
All right, I appreciate it. Yeah, just keep me in the loop.
I'm sorry I unloaded this on your show, but your show is just as well as any others.
All right, well, I appreciate it. No, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me, and let's do it again.
All right. When you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself. Good night.
Program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.